How to implement role-based access control on AWS Bedrock Knowledge Bases. Let's explore that. You decided to use AWS Bedrock Knowledge Bases for your RAG application, and maybe it's your customer data there, maybe it's sales data. This could be your a connection to Confluence or your company's data, all sorts of things. And you have the data there, but now it's time to pay your dues and you need to secure this thing. Why? Because A, you have to. B, it's common sense, right? You may have customer data that you don't want to spill. And of course, these are things that we want to be mindful of. And this is fairly new technology, this whole AI thing, and security is adjusting. And of course, like everything with security, there are layers for what you need to do. So there's the layer where you need to secure your actual data and your data sources and your prompts and everything. But this video will focus on role-based access controls. So that is who can access the data on AWS knowledge bases. And for that, I created a small demo app and an AWS knowledge base. And I'll show you how to actually do that to accomplish this with one feature in AWS knowledge bases. Before we move on to the rest of the video, don't forget to actually subscribe to this channel. I will be posting more videos on this topic. We'll go through all the security layers of securing RAGs and other features in AI. So click it and maybe also like the video. For this demo, I created a policy portal for our fake company. It's amazing how fun it is to create demos with AI. You can just spin off whole apps in a matter of minutes. So this is a Next.js app that has the AWS SDK to work with the knowledge base and also Cognito. And let's look at the actual architecture here. As you can see, we have a fairly simple app here. It's just the portal app. It's a Next.js app, like I said, and it has a few features. It will actually allow us to see documents and search documents related to our security policies. And to do that, basically we used a few services by AWS. So the first one is AWS Cognito. That's for authentication. And we will be using that to get JWT tokens. Actually, JWT already has the tokens in its name. Never mind. We will have JWT tokens with the actual user roles, and I explain that in a second. And then we have the Bedrock Knowledge Base that uses S3 as a data source. We'll go over each one of these actual elements just to see what we put there. And the emphasis is actually on two things here. So we have the S3 bucket that has the metadata, which is very important. And then we also have the app itself and the roles from Cognito that we will use to actually filter the results. So again, the authentication flow is very simple. The user logs in through AWS Cognito, gets a token with the role, and then when we make requests to Bedrock, we will actually ensure that this user with that specific role can only see results that were meant for that user and not other results. Okay, so when we query something, I'm asking it something about a specific document or how we do things. So this is the security portal. It will actually only use the data from multiple documents that I, as a user, am allowed to actually see. And we'll see that in action in just a few seconds. For the purpose of this demo, I created a user pool in AWS Cognito. And basically, we created 3 groups that we will use as the roles. And these are 3 different personas for this demo. So we have the engineering team, we have the legal team, and the security team. Our data is all in one place, the company's data. And we need a way to actually filter that to ensure that each user, each persona actually has access to their own documents. If we look at this tiny demo, Bedrock knowledge base that I set up, we can see that we have a simple knowledge base with an open search vector database. And what's interesting here and what is crucial here is the actual data source. This is where we'll put some emphasis on. And the data source is S3. It has a few documents in it, and let's see how that is structured. Now pay attention because this is one of the most important parts of this demo. You can see that we have the actual policies. So these are documents with the policies that we have. These could be PDF files, these could be text files, markdown files. In this case, these are just textual files. But as always, we try to attach metadata files. So these are JSON files for metadata for each of these policies. Now, what is very important in this use case, when you want to add role-based access control to AWS Knowledge Base, this is what you need to do inside each of the metadata files. In this metadata file, we have the actual restrictions that we want and the roles that we want to attach to this user. We will later use this to actually filter out documents. As you can see, we have two parameters here. We have the classification, restricted. This could be public or others. And then the audience is security. That means the security team in this case. And now back to the actual app. Let's see how that actually works. So if we log in as Bob from the engineering team, I'll sign into the app. As you can see, this is the actual portal that we have with all the documents. I can see the documents that are related to the engineering team. And if I switch role, just for the demo, I will see different documents here. Okay, so that's if I want to actually see the documents. But now I want to interact with the chat system that we have here. So let's go back to the engineering team. Let's go back to the chat and actually run a query. So this query is, what is the change management approval process that we have? And we only want to search documents that I am allowed to see. So let's see here. Let me click send. You can see that it's searching the database and it returns data from the documents that I can see as a change management policy. That's the only document that it actually retrieved here. And these are just the documents that I am allowed to actually see. So it is working. So let's take a look under the hood to see how this actually works in the code. And this is the magic. This is how it works. So basically the feature that we are using in AWS Bedrock Knowledge Bases to implement the role-based access control is called filters. We're sending out a filter with each request. So when we're making queries to AWS Bedrock, we're actually attaching a filter. And this filter in this case is the role that we have. So fetch the role. So let's look at the get filter for roles. You can see that we have a mapping of all the user roles, and this will form the query to AWS Bedrock. Okay, and that will allow us to fetch just the documents that we are allowed to see. Now remember that we have the metadata files. That's how filters work. When Bedrock fetches the documents, it checks against the metadata to actually see what is restricted. And it's also great to know that if you forget to put a metadata file next to an actual file, what will happen is Bedrock will not fetch it. It will only fetch items that match the filters that we created. And you can get creative with the filters. You can do and or all sorts of different queries, but the whole brain behind this is the filters. Now, where do we get the roles? That's simple. We get them from AWS Cognito. So in AWS Cognito, when we authenticate the user, we fetch the role from here. We will map the Cognito group to a role. So we have the whole loop here, right? We're using the authenticated user data to actually fetch the role that we want to allow access. And then we pass that data to AWS Bedrock Knowledge Base. And we only see the results that we want. In Bedrock, you can actually test your knowledge base. So let's click that and select the modal. So in this case, I'll choose Claude Haiku. And you can actually implement the filters here. So I'll do audience equals security. Here we apply the filter, and now we can run a query. Okay, and you can see, and it cites one of the documents that we have. Now let's try to actually ask a different question for something that we are not allowed access to. You can see from the results, it's a little confused because I asked it a question about production deployments, and all the documents that it does have access to are related to the security team. So as you can see, that works. And this is a great way to actually test your controls and your filters, and a little playground where you can actually build your queries. This could get a little complicated, a little complex, This wraps up our demo, and the two takeaways are that to use role-based access control on AWS Knowledge Base, you will have to implement filters. And the second takeaway is that you should always have the metadata files and use that to assign the roles. Now, if you haven't, now is a good time to actually subscribe to the channel and like this video if you found it helpful. And I'll see you in the next one. We'll probably be talking about either guardrails or another security related feature. So stay tuned.